Hi guys, I'm Lottie and I'm here today with Monsoon to bring you a Pilates fundamental workout. So we're going to be really slowing things down and getting you to understand a little bit more about what Pilates is all about, the fundamentals, which is breathing, alignment and centering. So we're just going to be really using that breath, getting you connected right into your body and getting your joints moving a little bit, getting your spine moving a bit and working you through lots of different ranges of movement as well. So this is great to do if you've been doing Pilates for years or if you're new to Pilates, if you really want to get to understand all the fundamentals a little bit more. So let's get started. So we're just going to begin in this seated position and just start by focusing on your breath. So I just want you to notice how you're breathing and how you're sitting. Just let go of any tension that might have crept up during the day or while you were sleeping and just really start to lengthen up through the spine. We're breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the mouth, and I want you to focus on that breath going into the sides and the back of your rib cage. Now I'm just going to gently get the spine moving laterally, so floating one arm up and then continuing to breathe out as you reach over to the side. Good, and then going the other way. So we're going into a lateral stretch with that spine. Try and keep the chest open and then coming all the way up. So just focusing on movement here, not overthinking. Just starting to notice how the back feels. So maybe one side feels a little bit tighter than the other. Pilates is a lot about just trying to become a little bit more body aware and more balanced. And we're going to try and keep that breath flowing throughout the session here. So breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the mouth. Now I'm just turning to the side so you can really see my spine, but you can just stay facing forwards. And we're going to just stretch the spine forwards into a flexed position. So starting from the crown of your head, exhale and just sliding the hands forwards down over your legs. And then coming up as you inhale, lengthening to the crown of your head. So again, that flowing breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Focusing on the breath directing into the back and side of the ribs and less up into the shoulders and the chest. So keep the shoulders away from the ears and the neck nice and long. And we're doing about 3 repetitions of all the exercises we're going to do here. So not too many, just keeping the body moving. So we're breathing out, just trying to get a little bit more stretch forwards on that last one. And then we're coming all the way back up, lengthening through the spine. Good, now just coming a little bit forwards on your mat and we're going to roll our backs down into what we call a relaxation position. So just collecting your spine, bringing your feet a little bit closer towards you. And you might want to just stay here for a few moments just to see how the back feels. We're going to go into some pelvic tilts, so placing your hands on your pelvis and just rocking your pelvis forwards and back into what we call posterior tilt and then an anterior tilt. So your lower back will just imprint into the mat and then arch gently off. And what we're doing here is just trying to find what we call our neutral spine. Good, now feeling that zip up of your belly towards your spine, keeping your neutral spine, we're gonna do some double knee folds. So folding one leg in, the other leg in, and then placing that first foot back to the mat and then the other foot back to the mat. So nice and simple, but what we're aiming to do is keep the pelvis and the spine in that neutral placement. So check that when you're lifting the legs, you're not letting the lower back arch more off the mat or imprint into the mat. So you're really keeping it fixed in that stable position. So we have to use the abdominals a little bit to do this. So feeling that zip up and hollow into your center. So again, we're just doing about 3 repetitions of everything, keeping relaxed. Now just challenging it a bit more into these toe taps. So keeping your legs up in the double knee fold, breathing out as you tap one toe towards the mat, just lightly tapping it and then breathing in. Now if you don't feel like you can hold that tummy and hold that back neutral, then just stick with the double knee folds for now. But this is really fundamental centering work. Good, now we're going to start to curl up and use the upper abdominals a little bit more. Keep the pelvis nice and level as you exhale, nod the chin to the chest and then just coming into that curl forwards. Shoulders are nice and wide. Good, keeping that breath flowing, keep the alignment of the pelvis and then using those centers to draw the belly flat and curl the tips of the shoulders up. What tends to go wrong here is we kind of pull on the head a little bit more and try and get a little bit too high. So it's more about finding length and mobility in your spine as you flex forward. So keep the head pressing back into the hands and keep that pubic bone rolling away from you. What will want to happen is it kind of tucks up as the hips overwork. So keep softening the hips. Now we're just going to find a little hold of those abdominals as we come here. So reaching the arms forwards. This is a prep for what we call the Pilates 100, but we're just seeing if we can hold the stamina of the abdominals in towards the spine with those legs lifted off the floor as well and in your curl up. Then bringing the hands back behind the head, laying the head back down and placing the feet back down as well. Always controlling the return. So we're trying to stay conscious and mindful throughout all the movements we do in the session. Now we're going to do a little bit of lower back rotation. So arms out to the side, lifting the legs up into that double knee fold and bringing the knees and feet together. And then rolling your pelvis over to the side. So we did the kind of tilt forwards and back at the start. And now we're going into a sideways tilt, a rotation of the pelvis. So just allowing the legs to follow with you, keeping the opposite shoulder rooted down. And we're connecting a little bit more into those waist muscles here as well. So really feel those ribs knitting together, the chest nice and soft. Again, keep using the breath to relax you and to find those deep centering muscles. And don't worry too much about when you breathe in and out. Just try and keep the breath flowing for now as we just focus on our alignment and our real control of these movements. So now we're going to go into spine curls. So just working you through all these lovely exercises that are Pilates kind of basics, fundamentals that get us just becoming more aware of our body. So with this one, we're going to be tilting the pelvis into that posterior tilt, so the low back flats down, starting to engage the back of the legs and the glutes a little bit, keeping the hips level. And then we're just adding a bit of shoulder mobility by taking the arms over the head, and then a nice sense of opposition as you roll down. So we're looking for sequential movement of the spine here, rather than just bridging the hips up and down. Really try and feel vertebrae by vertebrae, softening through the chest as you come back to the mat, finding that neutral, so really becoming aware of that neutral at the bottom, and then bringing the arms back down by your side. Now we're holding those hips up and just doing little heel lifts here. Again, this is a prep for a more advanced exercise that you might have done, like the single leg lift and lower. But we need to make sure that the hips aren't dropping even with this exercise. So I'm just putting my hands on my hips and doing 3 on each side and then rolling all the way back down. Then I'm just giving myself a little hamstring stretch. So keeping the bottom down onto the mat, the tailbone sticking out, and just seeing how that hamstring feels. Just deep breaths, keeping my alignment, and then going into the other leg as well. So not letting the bottom tuck up towards you here. Again, we're really focusing on neutral when we're laying on the back. Good. Then I'm just going to control my roll up. So I'm going to put my hands behind my thighs and just really kind of scoop the navel in as I create a C curve and slowly rock up to a seated position. And then just swinging my legs around and coming onto my hands and knees. So again, all the transitions, try and make them fluid, try and make them controlled. Then going into a lovely cat stretch. So focus on the whole mobility of the spine here, from the tailbone to the crown of the head, making that nice even C curve. We rock back, rock forwards, and then lengthen back to neutral, really pushing away from the mat. So this new position, we still need to check that we're using our center, we're using our breath, opening up the hips and creating space in between every vertebrae as we find that nice round spine, and then controlling back to neutral. So just doing one more here, exhaling, inhaling, trying to keep that curve as you sit back, coming forwards and then lengthening out with control, pressing the mat away. Now challenging the stability on our hands and knees in this 4-point kneeling position into the tabletop exercise. So you want to keep that box, so shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, and then the limbs just move away from each other. Feel a little bit like you're hugging your ribs in here away from the mat, lifting the leg up just from that hip joint, and then the arm comes forwards, keeping the shoulders down away from the ears. So nice square alignment through the spine, and then adding that challenge of bringing the arms and legs away. And as you can see, my neck and head here is in line with the spine, rather than dropping down. So remember, we're looking at the whole body as a whole and being conscious of what every part of that body is doing. One more on each side. Good. So So just staying really nice and calm throughout the session, but working hard to maintain our alignment and the control and that sense of tummy. Now adding a little bit of thoracic rotation into our thread in the needle. So bringing one hand underneath and then just bending the opposite elbow, keeping that pelvis nice and stable. So going back to that neutral pelvis that we found on our backs at the start. Turning from the head, neck, and then the spine, and then coming back to that start position. So this is really nice as well for those shoulder stabilizers. We're really strengthening around our joints, the spine, the tummy, the hips. One more to each side, starting from the head and then rotating into that thread in the needle. Good. So rotation is a really nice one to do before we now just come onto the front and do a little dart. So the legs are together. Again, we're working through these different movements of the spine. So now we're coming into extension. So you're just going to lift the head, neck and chest off the mat, reach the fingertips back towards the feet. When you're laying on your front, just keep that little lift through the tummy and then coming back to the mat. So opening up the chest and shoulders, rotating the palms in to face the thighs, as you reach forwards through the crown of the head, keeping the neck long, and then coming back to the mat. Rolling the shoulders open, reaching the fingers back towards the feet, and then just gently drawing those shoulders down the back. Good. Again, controlling your transitioning up to standing. So we're going to go for a little downward dog, lifting the hips up towards the ceiling, pressing the heels down, walking the hands back towards the feet, and then soften the knees as you sequentially roll up. We're going to do 3 roll downs to finish. I always like to finish in standing, bringing all that hard work from the mat up into our standing position, sequentially rolling down over the legs and allowing the hips to flex at the bottom, restacking the pelvis, then the ribs, then the head and neck. So make sure that head and neck is coming up last. 2 more, exhale. As you roll up and over, keep that tummy gently zipped in. Breathe into the back and side of those ribs again, and then coming all the way back up to standing. Maintaining that sense of calmness throughout. So starting from the head, neck, curling the ribs in towards your body as you reach over towards your feet. And then really nice and slow as you line up the pelvis, the ribs, the neck, and the head.